Welcome back to George Orwell's 1984. We're on chapter 4. And for those of you who tried to pick this up yesterday, we had some technical difficulties with the sound, and I apologize. And I'm re-recording this today because I want you to hear chapter 4, and we'll get right back on track again. And we had some microphone problems, which I regret. Not going to happen again. I want to draw your attention to a couple of things in chapter 3, which I think are important, because chapter 3 contains one of the most famous axioms of George Orwell. And of course, it's not something he said himself in his journalism or his nonfiction writing. It's something he wrote in 1984, and it's an axiom of the Big Brother state, which is who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. Now that's very important because that is the emblem, the very essence of internet censorship today, and about where the democratic nations, including the United States and Canada, are going with their internet censorship and how they're controlling the past and the future and the present. You always hear the Liberal government of Justin Trudeau apologizing for the past, constantly reimagining Canada as just a terrible, racist, undemocratic place. Just as Joe Biden in the United States does the same thing with American history. And they can control that. They control how you think today. They can control how you think about the past and how you're going to think about the future. This is where censorship goes today. And it's extremely important to understand that, because that is one of the greatest threats to our world today. It's the government deciding what is truth, because there's no such thing anymore for most academics as objective truth. And Orwell saw this in the 1940s, that objective truth was already falling out of favor with academics and especially politicians. Truth is whatever the politicians say it is. And we'll learn more about this in chapter 4 today, because that's precisely what this chapter is about. It's about how a censor, which is Winston's primary job, how a censor reimagines, reinvents, and changes the past in order to bring it into sync with the objectives and the ideology and the sayings of the present. And this is extremely dangerous because eventually we don't know what is right, wrong, true, or false. It all melds together, and it only matters what the government tells you is the truth. And this is where Justin Trudeau is going with the Online Safety Act, which is coming up within a month, I predict. It's the third part of his internet censorship trilogy, which is destroying free speech on the internet. This latest installment is the most dangerous because it targets something called disinformation, which the act will not define, because all of the liberal study groups have said, don't define disinformation because it's impossible to enforce it. It'll be impossible to enforce the legislation if you define disinformation. So don't define it. Let it mean whatever you want it to mean. And that's where Justin Trudeau is going with this. Now, the other part of the chapter we just read, which is very important, is that Oceania, as part of this big brother world, is in perpetual war. There's always conflict. And it doesn't matter if your enemy today was your ally 2 years ago. It doesn't matter if your ally today will be your enemy 2 years from now. Isn't that how the world has operated? And more specifically, how the great world power, the United States, has operated since the end of the Cold War, since the end of this bipolar world. We now have a world where the United States constantly seeks war with states that are deemed to be terrorist, that are deemed to be bad for their own population, that are dealing drugs, and that are developing weapons of mass destruction, WMD. So you meet any of these criteria and watch out, you might have a war on your doorstep. You might have an invasion from the US. You might have a drone missile come down. You might have a cruise missile coming after you, because it's not about winning a war. There's no war to win. It's about keeping the war going so the profits for the armaments industry, that military industrial complex that Dwight D. Eisenhower talked about in 1961, so that can keep profiting from the wars. It's not about winning. And really, it's not about losing. It's about keeping the wars going. So hence, when the United States withdrew from Afghanistan in the most spectacularly buffoonish and horrible way possible, it immediately found another war in Ukraine. And it's financing that war to the billions. I'm going to leave it at that for now. I think it's very important that we comment about what Orwell's talking, because it's all about the present. It's 1984 in this book. It's 2023 in our world today. I think it is anyway. I can remember that much. But this book is about today. Very much about today. And I think all of you listeners are acknowledging that. So let's get on with the reading of the book. This is George Orwell's 1984. Hi, it's David Krayden here. Thank you so much for subscribing and supporting the station. We could not move forward without you. What we're trying to do every week here is bring you the news you might not see everywhere else. And we're coming against Justin Trudeau's internet censorship laws. Please subscribe, ring that bell if you haven't done so already. I know it's annoying to ask. Believe me, I'm not a salesman. I'm a writer. But I really implore you to do that, because I need this station to keep going. We want to keep bringing you the news that you want to hear. And if you want a story covered, let me know, please. Because that's where I'm getting a lot of news information from your tips. So thank you for being there for me. And you can also support this station by going on my Substack. And yes, I know it's free, but I can also use your support. So please do that if you can. And I'll continue to be here every week, every day if must needs be, to tell you what's really happening in this world of ours. And I'm in nobody's pocket, but I am on your side.